You can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay. I'm Rebecca Sheehan.
And this is Beautiful Bodies of Birmingham.
This is Beautiful Bodies of Birmingham. I'm Rebecca Sheehan, and I live in Birmingham, and I have a beautiful body.
I know! I'm so excited. This is going to be really good. Okay, so when is the first time you ever noticed your body image?
Well, I was a gymnast from ages 4 to 14.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I became aware of my body at a really young age.
Yeah.
The first time I remember feeling badly about my body was I was probably about 6 or 7, and I was in a leotard, of course, and I had my legs out straight like that in a pike position, and my little leg muscles like flared out when they're relaxed, you know. And I remember thinking that mine were bigger than everybody else's, and not understanding that that's what muscle does when it relaxes, you know. So for most of that time, I really did have a positive body image. I was strong, I was thin, really, really tiny. My whole family is very petite. We're all tiny little Irish hobbit people, you know, and my dad is petite, my grandfather's petite, everybody, men, women, everybody. So I guess I did also realize that was an advantage in gymnastics, was being little and aerodynamic. So things were going well. I was also praised by my father, by other men in general, also coaches, for being strong. In 5th grade, I used to arm wrestle all the boys and beat them, and I could do more pull-ups than any boy. I had great upper body strength, and I was super fast. Then I believe in 7th grade, I moved from South Carolina to Alabama, and that was a real struggle for me. I was not great at making friends. I was kind of one of those girls, I was born with friends. But when I moved to a different state, that was more difficult. I also moved to a more repressive kind of fundamentalist Christian school, which was very different from the very artistic, really writing type of emphasizing school that I went to in South Carolina. It didn't matter that much at that point because I was doing so much gymnastics that we pretty much moved to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, just so I could train with the University of Alabama gymnasts.
Wow.
Yeah, awesome. Which was cool, but kind of a lot of responsibility to put on a 12-year-old. It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
The training in Alabama was different from the training in South Carolina. I can't be like too specific, I'm not totally sure, but for some reason in Alabama, we did so much conditioning that my little 5-foot frame just packed on the muscles. I gained muscle very easily, but I gained muscle like that. And then I hit puberty like that. And I was 13, 14, in the throes of puberty, which if you're a good gymnast, if you want to be an elite gymnast, if you want to go to the Olympics, it's really not good to hit puberty. It's something you avoid. You gain weight in areas that typical elite gymnasts don't carry weight. So you gain hips, you gain boobs, you have extra weight that you literally have to throw around a balance beam. You know, when that happened, I had to adjust. I became terrified of beam because I had a larger frame now. I had to manipulate my body in a different way and learn how to do that more efficiently.
Yeah.
That's difficult. That's really tough. I had really terrible periods, which is mortifying in a leotard.
Yeah.
That's something that no girl should have to go through. Around that time, one of my best friends in the world, actually, in the gymnastics world, excuse me, one of my best friends went elite. She actually trained with Nastia Luke and Carly Patterson at World Olympic Gymnastics Academy. Well, her family for reasons unbeknownst to me, followed the dietary laws of the Old Testament, which I know is so strange.
Wow.
They were all homeschooled. It was weird, but I remember looking at this girl who was my age, who got to travel to Texas, train with Olympians. She was supposed to be an Olympian, but she kept getting injured. And I idolized her body. She had not an ounce of fat on her. She didn't hit puberty till she was 17. Very, very athletic, very tiny.
Wow.
So I started modeling my eating habits after them. After I was 14, I did end up quitting gymnastics. And the only reason I can say is because I think I was really depressed. I wasn't sure why. I missed South Carolina. I didn't fit in at school. As far as body image goes at school, people would, the football coach would point me out and ask me if I would play the line for them. Boys that were my age would, make me flex my muscles for them, and that was mortifying. What I wanted more than anything was to be a delicate ballerina body type. And I always thought that I would have looked like that. I always thought that I would have been thin if I hadn't done so much gymnastics. So I used to regret it because this thing with my thighs came back. I'd sit down and my thighs would go black, like everyone's does.
Yeah,
anyway.
because you're sitting down.
That's what your muscles do when you sit down, but I guess I didn't realize that. When it was happening to me, it was because I was too big.
It was like the body dysmorphia kicking in.
Body dysmorphia had kicked in. I remember looking at mirrors and things like that, and seeing this whale, which is not possible. I was 5
You're
foot.
such a petite woman.
Yeah. And I can look back at pictures now of me in my leotard and be like, what a strong girl.
Yeah.
She's
what was I
fit.
thinking?
Yeah, she looks like an athlete, a beautiful athlete. I ended up quitting gymnastics and I started theater right away, which is another pastime. Everybody's looking at your body, and what you look like gets you apart or not, And I didn't really make that connection at the time. I was just really obsessed with Lord of the Rings, and I was like, oh my gosh, I could like reenact my favorite books, And that's what I want to do. And it's more freeform. It's you don't get judged by oh, you get a 10, you get a 9.8. It's like, oh, what a cool interpretation. So anyway, when I quit gymnastics, I lost tons of weight from muscle atrophy just because I was not performing at that level like I had been.
Yeah.
I was being very normal I tried basketball. I was miserable at basketball. I did all these very typical high school things, and that was better for my mood. But as the weight started falling off, then I started getting more compliments. You look so good, and these types of things. You're so tiny, and tiny and little became trigger words, I think, for me, because I didn't believe people when they told me that I was tiny. But I also craved that attention.
It was like a compliment.
Yes, it was a compliment, and they were saying it like a compliment in complimentary tones. But it was also a challenge. It's like, oh, you think this is tiny? Because I don't right now. This is not tiny. Yeah, exactly. Just wait. It's a challenge now. It's a competitive. So I got really good at losing weight.
Is that when your eating disorder began?
Yeah, I would say that's when my eating disorder began.
So how old were you, do you think?
14.
Wow.
Yeah, 14. I also, in that time, started self-injury as well.
Wow.
As a way to
What type of self-injury?
control my appetite. At this point, it was, I had a rubber band that I put a staple in. And when I ate something that I thought I shouldn't have, I popped. And I had an amount, and I would tally up the amount, and then it would be like punishment at the end of the day.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, and I didn't even know. It's not like I went into it saying, this is an eating disorder, this is self-injury. It's something that I could control in my life. And it was almost like it came out of boredom, but I don't think it did. It's something else.
Yeah.
So then the weight peeled off, but I was fine. I was a teenager. I had boundless energy. I was on the soccer team, Writers Bowl, Scholars Bowl. National Honor Society, perfect grades. And I enjoyed it at that point. I didn't enjoy high school exactly, but I enjoyed how I felt. I felt better.
Yeah.
But a lot of people couldn't cope with the fact that I quit gymnastics. People that I didn't really know that well, like friends' moms, would be like, but you're the gymnast. What are you gonna do? And I was able to easily hide all of this from my parents, but I was constantly looking for reassuring from my parents. I did theater from high school all the way through college. Went to college at Auburn University. As a freshman, I did begin to realize that I had no idea how to cook for myself or like any idea about food. I remember subsisting off of like yogurt and stuff, you know, just like, I'm not sure what I'm doing, but so 2010. I met with the Auburn Eating Disorder Treatment Team per my therapist's suggestion. I'd gone through a bad breakup, I was not interested in eating food, and I was tracking my weight and using a scale, and it was just crazy. She said, you might have an eating disorder, and I said, haha, maybe. I did a little research, and then I was like, okay, I'll go see these people. I met with the doctor, again, per my psychologist's request. I met with the eating disorder treatment doctor who put me on a scale, let me know how much I weighed, asked me how many calories I ate in a day. I couldn't tell her because I was not counting calories at that time. At that time, I was counting how many items I ate a day, which is an eating disorder.
Still restricting.
It's restrictive disorder, but it is not, I mean, she told me I did not have anorexia because anorexics counted their calories and they were at this BMI and all of this stuff. And at that point, it was the biggest slap in the face. And you're telling somebody who has body image issues, somebody who is trying to force their body to look like something,
that they're fine.
You're telling them that they're not sick enough, that they're not thin enough to get help.
Wow.
And that's never okay. And what that did was really ramp things up. At the same time, though, self-injury picked up a lot more. And that had a lot to do with living in a space. I had a roommate, like in the actual room, you know, living in a space that I didn't have control over, feeling like I had no secrets or privacy, and that popped up big time. It was also, I started shutting down emotionally. When I felt something bad, I turned it off. I said, let's not deal with this now. Let's turn this off and deal with it later. Instead of dealing with it later, everything that was happening to me in any emotional, in any like, oh, that's annoying, or like, oh, you should pick up your clothes, or that boy said something stupid to me, instead of saying, hey, pick up your clothes, hey, don't be an idiot, you know, I squashed it all down. I was really good at turning off my emotions. Because that was happening, I felt a complete numbness. And that's when self-injury started looking really good again. To feel anything, even if it was pain.
And you were restricting your eating as well?
I was restricting my eating, but I think I was not completely aware of that. I was more into the self-injury.
So what was your self-injury at that point?
That was cutting.
So you were cutting like on your arms and legs?
Yeah, mostly on my like hip area, so my roommate couldn't see it when I changed in front of her.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that was a big secret that I kept for a long time. At the same time, I got on Ambien because I wasn't sleeping, and that Ambien is going 0 to 90. You know, like responsible doctors don't put you on Ambien right away. I'm looking directly at the camera as I say this, like listen to me. Responsible doctors will ease you in. Instead, I was on Ambien, which is addictive and can cause hallucinations. It was a bad experience. I told one friend about the self-injury, and I asked my friend to tell my parents because I couldn't do it. Well, my mom panicked and put me in with the first therapist that she could get an appointment with. She was a Christian counselor, and she treated me like I was a freak. She didn't understand why anybody would want to harm themselves, what were my issues going on, like, and I didn't know. This is helping me right now. After that, I got put on Wellbutrin, which I got put on an antidepressant, which shredded the weight from me. It also made me nauseated. So instead of getting the freshman 15, I got the freshman negative 15.
Wow.
Which was really dangerous because I was already tiny, really little, from just melting in high school.
Yeah.
Around that point, I started fainting.
Wow.
I was collapsing, and I was fainting. I was eating crackers and nothing else, and started getting iron infusions.
Wow.
About a year later, I was on an iron prescription and all that stuff. I started abusing my stool softeners that they gave me.
Wow.
Because I was on an iron prescription. They were like, you're gonna need some help.
Constipated, yeah.
I was constipated. Anyway,
So that was another way to lose weight.
that was another way I lost weight. And then as that was happening, a lot of people knew what was wrong with me, but didn't necessarily, they'd be like, oh, eat a cheeseburger, like do this. And
The last thing you need to hear.
the last thing I wanted to do also was eat a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
And it was not helpful, and it was also attention for being small and sick, mostly sick. Another thing that happened is that while I was in theater, I got roles because I looked small and sick.
Yeah.
I played a concentration camp survivor. I played a girl with a heart problem, and
Wow.
these kind of damsel in distress parts. And it was,
Wow.
I mean, it's complicated because you're getting rewarded for what you look like.
Wow.
And I looked sick, so I got those roles,
Wow.
which was fine by me. That lasted all through college, and then I lived in Atlanta for 11 months after college. And senior year and living in Atlanta, I dealt a lot with, they call it exercise bulimia. So I ate very little, and what I did eat, I would work out and work off.
So you were like addicted to working out.
I was super sick. Yeah, and saunas and like all these things. And I was really just kind of, I didn't have direction in Atlanta. I didn't have anything that I was living for. I worked as a hostess. I was on my feet all day anyway.
Wow.
And the collapsing started again. So I ended up moving back to Auburn and went to get a second bachelor's degree. I went back to Auburn, and I was working at a boutique, and I was going to be a fashion blogger.
Wow.
And I was going to move to LA and work for Nasty Gal. That was the goal.
Wow.
But yeah, so I lived at Starbucks. I had a leopard print bag,
And you're just not being
I was
you.
not a human being. I was functioning with half a brain.
You weren't you.
But at that point, I did start dating Tim. My brother set us up. I was like, no boys. But eventually we did hit it off, and I got into Auburn again for a second bachelor's degree, and I declared a major in journalism. I remember my first meeting with the Plains when I was like, I just want to write about fashion, okay? And the editor-in-chief at the time, Kelsey Davis, she's amazing. She's one of my best friends. She was like, you can be so much more. It's cool that you like fashion, but think about it. And I was like, whatever, okay. So anyway, I remember meeting Tim, and at this point, so this is 2012, 2013, because I worked at a boutique and did fashion blogging for a little bit before I actually went back to Auburn.
Yeah.
So actually at this point, I was meeting with a therapist, a different one, and she suggested, again, that I go meet with the Auburn Eating Disorder Treatment
So
team.
what'd they say the second time?
I met with a dietitian, and I said I refused to see that doctor.
Yeah.
I had to see the doctor, but I told her not to talk to me about my weight, not to ask me how many calories I ate, because it's not about that. And at this point, I was weighing myself 2 to 3 times a day. It was out of control. But my dietitian and the therapist let me know that they had expanded the diagnostic statistical manual to include avoidant restrictive food behaviors.
Wow.
Which is where I fell. A common term for what they ended up diagnosing me with is called orthorexia. Have you heard of orthorexia? You can Google it. Actually, a doctor put it upon himself. He came up with the name. But it's the idea that some food is good and some food is bad. And we know that all food is good. There's no bad food, there's no good food. Everything is healthy in moderation. But orthorexia is an over preoccupation with food that is deemed healthy. And that comes from when those old practices that I used to do. I you know, the girl that I emulated, I copied their food patterns. So no pork, no, you know, animals with cloven hooves, no bottom feeders. And then in Auburn and starting in Atlanta, I basically was a gluten-free vegan, which is a psychotic way to live. It is unhealthy. It is not, that's an eating disorder.
Yeah.
You know, you can't survive like that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because there's like not any options.
Yeah, it's bad. It's a difficult way to live. But I got on with the eating disorder treatment team in Auburn, and they were so wonderful, so helpful. Jessica Lauren Newby was my dietitian. She still works there at Auburn. And Anne-Marie Del Signore was the therapist. Unfortunately, during this time, I was still not doing well. I was at kind of a critical moment, and they recommended that I seek more care, which is terrifying to hear sometimes, because that meant I had to put everything on hold. And at the time I was writing for the Plainsman, I was doing really well. I was a reporter, took photos, and I just got trained on InDesign. I was set up to be an editor the next year, and I got offered a job. Things were going really well. And I was also dating Tim at the time. I let him know about my eating disorder, and he was really supportive, and has been with me every step. So anyway, the eating disorder treatment team ended up recommending me to Birmingham, to a center for eating disorders. And I thought I was going to be there for 1 month. I had said 1 month to 3 months tops, and that is it, and I'm out of there, and I don't have time for this stuff, you know. It ended up being over a year.
Wow. Were you outpatient?
I'm currently outpatient. It started out as partial hospitalization program.
How long were you actually physically there?
Over a year. Yeah, you live on the grounds, and you eat all the meals there. You're there 6 days a week. You get Sundays off.
Wow.
Tim and I did long distance, and then he ended up moving to Birmingham. His family is from Hoover, so he lived with his parents. And,
wow.
He's massively supportive, and the program at ACET is amazing. They prepare you for life outside of treatment, and not a lot of places do that.
Wow, yeah.
Not a lot of places do that as efficiently as ACET does it, at least, because they step you down. Part of your, step down includes getting a job, even if it's part-time, just getting a job.
Yeah.
Showing that you can balance your checkbook, and that you can practice paying bills, and they help you approach your debt if you have any. I had student loans, so I can talk about that. And
yeah.
Tim and I it was mandatory that we did couples counseling, and we were in pre-engagement counseling, and now we're in pre-marriage counseling.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life.
Oh, yeah.
Was to put everything on hold and look at myself and treat my own wounds.
But you needed that.
Yeah, and giving myself the space to be Becky and be able to just be accepted for who I was, learn how to face conflict, and learn how to approach topics that are difficult, and let myself be vulnerable.
That was a long time coming.
It was a long time, and I couldn't believe it, and it was something that I wasn't even sure was wrong with me. People had told me, oh, you don't have anorexia, sorry, you're not gonna.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah, you're fine. You're just, you have to get an iron infusion every now and then. You're on blood pressure medicine. It's fine.
It's not fine.
It's not.
So
normal.
when did you officially graduate the program?
July.
This past July?
July, yeah.
Wow.
We have you call it a stone ceremony, and it's really just a milestone ceremony because I'm continually work in progress, and ACED is always there for people who graduate the program. there's an on-call phone. I can call at any time, and
It's amazing.
yeah, I meet with a counselor every other week, and Tim and I meet with the couples counselor whenever we feel like we need to now.
It's amazing.
I have fast friends that I met through there that have made very successful recoveries, and you know, it's just amazing to know that in every stage of my life, somebody's got my back.
Yeah.
You know, even if it wasn't Tim, even if it wasn't my
Yeah.
family, I'm you know, Birmingham is my home now, and
Yeah.
and that's what's cool. There's a whole community of people in Birmingham. Holly Renee Miller runs a center for eating disorders. She's an amazing woman in Birmingham.
Wow.
She is incredible. I remember when I entered treatment, I did that shutdown thing again, where I was like, I'm not gonna feel this, I'm not gonna feel that. You people are crazy, and I'm just here for like a month. And I didn't want to feel anything. I didn't cry. I didn't speak. I didn't get angry. I didn't laugh for too long while I was in treatment. And I can't remember what happened, but I cried, and Holly Renee Miller told me, if you let yourself feel the bad emotions, the things that are unpleasant, if you let yourself get angry with righteous fury and sob like a baby and get snot everywhere, you're going to be able to feel happiness too. I didn't think there was any other way to be. I didn't know that I could feel differently. I didn't know that feeling lived inside me all the time, and all I had to do was connect.
Like get to the root of the problem.
Right, and make the connection that I have the capability to take control back from my eating disorder. Just like I was able to control my body and say no to certain foods, I have the capacity to say yes to life and every aspect of it.
Yeah.
You're gonna make me cry.
Sorry, I'm trying to.
That's okay. That's beautiful.
But
You're allowed to cry.
And you know, this is all such a huge part of my story with my fiance too. I remember when I felt like things, like when the blinders came off my eyes and I could really see him. You know, I could see this man who loved me so much. And I was able to feel it too and give it back to him and radiate that back and feel like a human being.
Yeah.
And I think that most people who struggle with mental illness or loneliness or whatever in general, I think they don't know that there's another way that they can feel. You know? And that's what I would want them to know, is that you can feel differently. I swear to God. I swear to God you can feel differently. Because there does need to be a new vernacular in America of how we speak about women's bodies. And about men's bodies too. And bodies in general.
How we talk to each other about things, and how to let your family members know, like, hey, that was a shaming word, or hey, that wasn't okay.
Yes. And also to take the stigma away from mental illness.
Yes.
Because,
and take that stigma, girl. Yes.
Yeah, because it's without, you know, whether you realize it or not, it is everywhere you look. And in one degree or another, and there has been a climate of fear around mental illness. There's been a shaming climate around it, you know, coming forward and say, I struggle with depression and an eating disorder, you know.
Because they're intertwined.
Yeah. And, you know, self-injury and eating disorders can be intertwined.
Yeah.
Substance abuse and eating disorders and
Yes.
self-injury and alcoholism, it's all connected, and it all comes from a place of hurt. And I think that's something that we need to understand more of today. You know, and hopefully things will be better for our children, you know, and